Hi, Greg Cummings, CEO of Power100, and we are here with Andy Lindus, the CEO of Lindus Construction, for an exclusive 3-part interview so we can better get to know him, his leadership style, and why Lindus Construction has been able to climb our charts to a top 5 ranked company across the country. Andy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for coming. I'm pretty excited about it, and it's quite the honor. To be 100% honest with you, too, I'm not a CEO. But we haven't had a CEO here. My brothers and I all had to pick titles at one point in time, but that's what I've been the chief operating officer for 15 years, and that shows you how little we give a shit about titles around here. But we haven't had a CEO, a president, a vice president, or those are, I don't know. Titles are titles. What needs to get fucking done, and where can we point the team?
Yeah, and you know, it's funny that you say that, and I've noticed that, and I've heard people say COO or whatever, but like it or not, everyone's said that you are the point guy of the company. So yes, we have to give the title somewhere, right?
And I appreciate that, and getting on the list, but I feel shame seeing my name on that list because there's so many. Like, I'm not the guy. Like, I know I get pointed at the guy, but our team here, every year I'm less and less of the guy. That makes sense.
It makes sense on so many levels, Andy, because we go around and we talk to the best companies all across the country all the time. And the leaders of these companies, they have time on their hands to innovate and to work on their business, and also to show appreciation to the company that's there. And not one person that's on our list wants their name on that list. They immediately defer all the credibility, everything that's out there. But we operate under the context that great companies have great leaders without exception. You all have a 3-headed beast of leadership, right? You and your brothers. And it's been such a pleasure. The last time we were here, it's been a pleasure to get to know you, your brothers, and a bunch of the staff that was here. We had an extended pop-in visit, which was really, really cool. But the reality is, you have been getting so much attention on our ranking system this year and last year, as you're just really, it seems like the momentum is at an all-time high. And it's ironic that you're sitting there going, well, I work less and less when momentum's at an all-time high. And I think, after talking to people and doing our due diligence and really trying to figure out what is the machine that's moving Lindus Construction forward, and at the core of it, it's the culture, right? It's the leadership, it's the vision, and that comes from you and your brothers, and it trickles down. But before we get into all that, okay, and we're going to tell the world your story and how this thing goes down, I want to get to know you just a little bit better. I had a chance to sit down with your brother, Andy, as well as Adam. I'm sorry, Alex, as well as Adam. Your parents had to give all A names. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you. And we all played hockey together growing up. The announcers, it was A Lindus to A Lindus. We got called Adam, Andy, or Alex. So you can just call me A. You're not, mom and dad still screwed up. Everyone at work still screws it up. Every now and then I get called Kevin too. So it's just, it happens.
And it's even funnier because we're up here in the West where A is an actual thing. Like A, don't you know?
Exactly.
But I want to dive into a little bit more about who you are and kind of the backstory. Speaking of your brothers, what is it like working and every single day with your brothers, and maybe not so much now, but as you were growing, how did you guys effectively communicate between the three of you and kind of dropping your egos? That's the only way you were able to get successful, is really dropping your egos. There's no ego here, right? You started off the conversation about titles. That's irrelevant. We don't even pay attention to titles. No. We all have our jobs to do, and we rock out, right? But how do you manage working with your brothers in particular, and also, maybe how do you avoid those I told you so moments where you don't maybe handle them like you did when you were younger?
We're fortunate enough that there's those I told you so moments seem to be less and less, because over the last 30 years, we've honed how the three of us work together. Not just our opinions, the other people's opinions here, and majority rules. Once you make a decision, you do it as a group, and whatever happens, happens. We all were part of that decision, and once that decision's made, you shut up and move forward. I've worked with lots of companies around the country, and I consider myself super, super lucky that I have Adam and Alex. Because when I see these people off on the island and they don't have those people that they can trust, that these are people are going to, like, if shit hits the fan, like 2015, shit hit the fan. Me and my two brothers were on a roof installing shingles. We called my dad and talked to him. He's like, you guys will figure it out. He knew we'd figure it out. But because the three of us put our heads together and worked with our team, and not just the three of us, we're fortunate enough that there's probably, we got 150 employees here, if you're thinking right now, 152. There's probably 149 of them that are smarter than me. So that's the fortunate part. I'm not on an island. I have a team of people. I have two brothers that I can talk to, and mom and dad did it the right way. Like, Adam had to go and start up an office. I was put onto a crew. Like, at 17 years old, my mom called me and my cousin Joe, who runs Home Solutions of Iowa in Des Moines now. It's his company. We were on a crew together, summer help. And that morning, somebody had put a note on her desk. And it said, if we don't get a $2 an hour raise, we're going to quit. Ultimatums aren't the way to go about to have that conversation, especially with Mama Bear. So, long story short, me and Joe are now running our own crews at 17 years old. And we had to figure that part out. So it's not that we just fell into CEO. Like, we ran a crew, we started an office, and mom and dad looked at people's strengths and weaknesses, and my brother Adam ended up gravitating more to the production side, more of the detail side, the lawyer side, the HR side, saying legal, stuff that my mom and dad both worked on, but more so dad on the production side of things, and mom did some of the legal stuff. We didn't need lawyers in 1985 nearly as much as we do to employ people today. That's one thing we've learned over the years. And mom, knowing me and my personality, she put me to sales and marketing, which was her. So I ended up working with mom a lot more than Adam and Alex did. They were with dad. So they siloed us from the get-go. And think about a brilliant plan. Like, that's how we were able to go from, I think when we took over, revenue was around that $10 to $11 million for just this location.
That was in 2011.
Yeah, and I want to say we're going to finish the year like 51 this year. So that's a pretty good jump. But we can't do that if we have to do everything. So I can trust my cousin Rick, Travis, Bridget, and my two brothers to, like, they're top of the trust tree. Not everyone has that. That's important.
Do. Yeah. And I mean, I think it speaks kind of to how the company is perceived in the community, right? Like, it's a little bit different up here in Wisconsin and Minnesota areas that you serve, where trust is really hard to earn over the years. Really easy to lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when you have that trust internally, it naturally will bleed over externally, to your customers, which is why you've been able to grow at a sustainable rate, over the years. I would like to go back just a little bit further before we kind of get into some current stuff. What's the earliest lesson? I always like this question because great leaders always have something that has kind of anchored them, and something from their early childhood that they can draw on of a learning experience, whether it was directly tied to what they're doing today or not. It probably is woven into the fabric of who you are. Do you have an early childhood lesson that you learned, and how do you still carry that, if you do, to this day?
This is a tough question because there's so many things I've learned, not only from my family, but the community that we're a part of. So my mom moved to this community when she was a 7th grader. And her brother was a little bit older. One thing they didn't have in this community was hockey. And there's a picture of my Uncle Tim with a $2,000 check for the first boards here. Then take that a little bit forward. My dad's a basketball player, but he recognized how important hockey was to that side of the family, and he volunteered. The first ever warming house was built by Lindus Construction. No money to build the first ever indoor rink. Lindus Construction was a big part of it. My dad was president of the Hockey Association. I was president of the Hockey Association. My mom was president of the Hockey Association. The volunteerism that they have promoted to everyone here. And one of the coolest things is I get compliments from people in the community all the time that Jake Miller, you'll meet him tomorrow. This guy looks like he can install a bay window by himself. Like he's just, and so a mutual friend of ours goes, "You have such a cool company." And I said, "Well, what makes you say that?" She goes, "This guy pulls up, Lindus Construction van," and she goes, he's a well put together young man, so we all like watching this. Gets out of his van, pulls off his Lindus Construction sweatshirt, puts on his Somerset Spartans baseball shirt, and starts coaching a game. Like if anybody needs to get off to go coach anything, they get that. And I can tell you this, if anybody comes to me for a donation for anything youth athletics or anything that's going to help the community, I've never said no. Whether it's St. Louis Park Hockey, New Richmond Hockey, Amory Hockey, Somerset Hockey, Baldwin Hockey, the local football team, or assistant coaches. I think they're the most underpaid humans in the world. They're all volunteers. So we've taken it upon ourselves to try to go to the local schools and be like, hey, we're going to give you a $5,000 donation. We want it all to go to assistant coaches. If there's anything I learned at an early age, it's whatever you put out into the world, it's what's going to come back at you. And you can't worry about yourself ever. Like the selflessness part of success, you've done this enough. How many times do you sit down with the most successful people in the world and be like, that is like one of the most unselfish individuals I've ever met. This person only cares about the people around him and the community in which he's a part of, or she's a part of. It's uncanny how when you look at the best of the best.
It aligns perfectly, absolutely perfectly with the top people that I talk to every single time.
Every single time.
I just delivered a keynote speech a couple months ago, or not even when was it? Last month, right? And one of the key things in that speech was having something greater than your products and services that your company offers. If somebody asks you what you do and you start to go, well, we install roofs, we do siding, we do windows, then you're not there yet, right? Mm-hmm. If somebody asks you what you do, it's got to be one of the most complicated ways of answering it, because what you do is so much bigger than just the products and services that you offer your communities, right? It's about having something further to go about, something further to work for, about being a part of a team that you know you can count on and trust. If your kid needs a softball donation, right? Like whatever the case may be, that is a common trait with the top companies across the country. And it's one of those main drivers of why we're here, right? Because we've noticed you guys jumping significantly each year to now, where it's just what y'all are doing now, and especially over the last 18 months, has been something really special. And I want to get into that just a little bit, if it's okay with you, because you were born into this business. You had no choice. It's like, hey, you're born. Mom says to do this, you're doing it. Like, you're not pushing back, right? It's not like you with your son. You let him go to college and figure it out, right? And say if he wants to come back, then you can come back. But
oh, thank God he did.
Yeah, we can get to that too, because that's one of the best compliments I think you could ever receive, right? As a father and as a leader, as a company, your son chooses to come back and work for the company that you've built your whole life around, right? So that to me gives me goosebumps and chills. But I want to talk. We can talk about that a little bit later. I want to talk about why you actually raised your hand to accept the responsibility of the family and say, hey, this is a hard thing to do. Your parents did this the right way. And then now you're raising your hand saying, yes, I'll continue to carry that torch with my brothers. Was there a moment where, I know there's probably a moment where you were apprehensive, you weren't sure, but what was the moment that maybe you and your brothers had that said, we are on to something bigger? Like, we actually can, not thinking that you can take it to the next level and go to the moon and have fun with it in the basement conversation, but when was the physical moment where y'all sat around and said, this could be bigger than what we even thought? Holy cow. What was that moment?
Oh boy, we've had a couple of them. Roofing. This is we didn't do roofing forever because my dad went all in with certainty back in the day, and they had something called an organic shingle. And when the warranty failed, there was like $500 they got to replace the roof. So my dad was eating that expense to replace those roofs. So we thought we'd never get into roofing. Like that wouldn't be the part. This is again 2005, 6, somewhere in there. I'm sales manager at this point in time. We have 5 salespeople. Me and another guy go into my dad's office, and we asked him, what's the most you think you could ever sell roofing for? And he gave us a number, and we added $50 a square to it. We left that meeting as an idea, like, all right, are we gonna have 2 products, leaf guard and roofing? We need a little bit of windows, a little bit of siding, but those we're at this point in time, $8-9 million a year company. So it's not a lot of anything. That first year, we got about half the amount of sales in roofing as it was leaf guard. And I'm like, it's 4 weeks for someone to even see us, like to get an estimate at one point in time. We were leaving so much meat on the bone, and then we finally switched CRMs and we started to look at our numbers holistically and what we were leaving on the table. And we're like, holy shit, we've been mailing it in to get where we are right now. If we actually paid attention to these numbers and we actually knew our analytics, we actually talked about a break-even point for the first time, like what it was to be profitable. So I can tell you that at that point in time, 16% of revenue went towards advertising. This year, 3.2% of revenue goes towards advertising. Our marketing budget really hasn't had to be raised.
3.2%
of revenue
is marketing. Wow,
is marketing.
That's crazy. It speaks volumes, and we talk a little bit about market, about how you guys have been positioned in the market and how you've been able to revolutionize the CRM platform, right, with contractor flow. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about that a little bit more, but before I do, I want to know from a culture perspective, because you touched on it, like you never looked at profitability, you never really looked at, you were leaving all this meat on the bone, like you said, all this, but what you had was a foundation. You just do the job right. You do it the right way, and everything will take care of itself. And then you put the tools on top, and now you're adding gasoline to the fire. Well, too many guys do it the opposite way. They go, I'm gonna get all these tools and resources, and I don't have the foundation. Yeah. And that's when they fail very quickly. So can you talk a little bit more about how you've been able to adopt and really push forward contractor flow to be the premier CRM in this industry?
Yes. And I can tell you why we went that route is because everything that we try to do, we want to do it the best way possible. Why we struggled to offer people roofing is because we didn't believe in any of the warranties any single asphalt roofing company could give us. So we finally met with GAF, figured out what Golden Pledge warranty was, the Glenwood shingle, same thing with the LP Smart Side. We finally found warranties that we liked. And why we've built the system that we did is we failed, like all of our CRMs and software that we're using, 5 different programs, we didn't like a single one of them. We were just okay with mediocrity. And I think you can draw a direct conclusion. I think the majority of contractors around the country are okay with mediocrity. If that wasn't the frickin' case, Glenwood shingles would still be available. The last year they were available at GAF, 95% of the installs were done by Lindus Construction. Why? Because it was too expensive to sell and no one ever found hail damage on it before. Like that stuff comes and goes all the time in our industry. And the reason why most of these CRMs fail is they don't have contractors running it. They have somebody from private equity, they have somebody from a software engineering firm, or they came from heating and air or some other stupid place like that. It's not roofers running it. I want to know exactly, I have analytics to tell me how many hours my guys spend on the job site. And know what we found out? If we can get our guys to spend 30 hours a week on the job site, we're profitable. We know, like, we forget cost per sale, cost per lead, cost per opportunity. I want to know how much my salesperson talks versus the customer on a call. Why? Because that affects change. Like, those numbers do they look at things too holistically? You don't understand. You want to have like 30 hours a week. It sounds like a no-brainer, right? Put
Sure.
GPS on your stuff. We're an hour away from where we do almost all of our thing. So that 30 hours means you're spending an hour a day driving. And how many people go to Menards, or how many people go and do this? So we can get 30 hours a week.
The gas station stop in the morning.
Gas station stops in the morning.
Oh man, those can be long, can't they?
Well, and expensive.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, my dad, when we first got the 401k, you know how he sold it to the guys? What they would have to do, the guys and gals, I should say. But at that point in time, it was mainly males. He brought in a loaf of bread and a thing of bologna and a thing of mayo. And he explained how much this costs and how much this lunch is going to cost. And this is actually, if you did this for 2 weeks of the month, would pay for what you're putting in your 401k. And now, I think we have an average of 7% of their pay going into 401k. People get to choose. So we have people that are going to retire from here and not have to rely on Social Security, because my dad took the time to explain like that. So everyone is on a bonus plan. So it's not just profitable for the company. So we can take the time and explain to people, if you're to do this, that's an extra $1,800 a year for you. If you make these habit changes, this is where you can make more money. This is where you're going to make people happier. Like it really is. When you have analytics like that and build a system like we have, you can affect change constantly. And now I'm not worried about my customers being happy. I can tell you this, every single customer that we've installed since 2015, they get a letter and an email. And on that is my email address and cell phone number, my brother Adam's email address and cell phone number, my brother Alex's email address and cell phone number. You can ask my brothers how often they get called. I've gotten one phone call this year, and I this is no lie, I answered it. She goes, "I can't believe you effing answered." And I'm like, yeah, it was a customer of ours. She just got home from vacation. A storm came through on her horse barn and had a tree fall through it, and we had a crew out there the next day. Like, I had already communicated with Dusty, and it went on contractor flow and said, hey, here's the picture she sent me. Here's what I told her we could try to accomplish tomorrow. She's really worried about her brand new horse barn. See what we can do. But
So I have a question, because it's great having all these tools and resources, but this business is always going to come down to people, meaning the installers, actually delivering the promises that are made at the kitchen table, right? How do you and the leadership team ensure that you are always doing the best possible installation and not leaving anything to chance? What methods have you put in place, or trainings, to make sure that the homeowners are getting the best product?
So, a couple of things. We took one of our best installers about a decade ago. He's our first ever quality control person. So we understood that as we grew, we're going to need some checks and balances in place to make sure that we can do that. So we put a quality control person in place. Now, we don't want him to play gotcha unless something is happening over and over. Yeah. So, and at this point in time, 75% of all jobs are going to get that QC person to go through there, and they're going to get rated. And bonus plans are put in place on, did you pass profitability for the month, and did you pass quality control for the month? So when you can incentivize quality and profit at the same time, good things happen. And I think too many people look for, let's take the roofing industry. You know how many meetings I've been in where people are proud of how little they pay per square? to get their roofs installed? Like that's what you're gonna hang your freaking hat on? You're proud that your workers are getting $10 a square less? Mind you, $10 a square on an average roof is $250 freaking dollars. That's where you're gonna hang your hat? I want my people to be the highest compensated group of people wearing tool belts, period.
Well, Andy, you said something to me in one of our earlier conversations last year that caught my attention. You said, and I quote, Lindus Construction is the home where great craftsmen end up. You're kind of talking about that now, but can you maybe elaborate on what you mean by that?
Yes, two different ways that I see this happening. People come to us and they don't have any skills whatsoever. And my brothers Adam and Rick and everybody in the production world has done a really good job of putting together a tier program where if you have zero skills, but you want to have those skills, we will show you. This is the 3-year process it's going to take to become a craftsman. And ever since, again, everyone looks at COVID as a bad thing. COVID helped us because we were the better employer in the area. So what COVID did to us, there was a gravitation towards quality of employment and quality of contractor. People stayed in their houses. They cared more about their houses. They had more, like it was the easiest time in the history of mankind to generate a home improvement lead, period, bar none. No, I think it's unarguable. So, but we saw companies get scared and shut down and fire people because they didn't know what was going to happen. And we got some really good craftsmen to come over. But the majority of our craftsmen are self-built. Like these are people that came up through the ranks. And speaking of self-help books, it's one of my favorites it's called Carpenter. And throughout that entire book, the great John Gordon talks about the difference between a carpenter and a craftsman, where a carpenter is getting through the day from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and a craftsman, whatever he or she touches, it's the best thing they've ever worked on, period. Like I'm going to make this the best thing I ever worked on. And talk about early lessons. I vividly remember a job that we were going to lose money on. Mom and Dad were like having arguments about it. And I vividly remember my father saying, well, I'm going to do it the best way possible and it's going to be perfect when it's done. So at least when it's done, maybe I get a referral out of it. I know I'm going to lose my ass on it. I know it does me no good to make him upset and lose my ass. So I'm losing already. I might as well make this the best job I've done all frickin' month. So at least the neighbors, I have a shot with the neighbors. I got more chance to get referrals. And the biggest lesson there is here's my dad making a decision about not winning tomorrow, not winning this month's P&L. This was a decision. You make decisions like that, that's how you stay in business since 1979. If you don't care about this week, this month, this whatever, it's why, because my dad didn't care about that, guess what I'm not dealing with? A whole bunch of shit he put on the wall 25 years ago. I don't get those phone calls. And that's probably the most important part of my job is to making sure the next person that sits in this seat also isn't getting those phone calls.
Yeah.
You've seen.
No, I totally appreciate and align with everything that you're saying. It's great to hear. Going back to the craftsmen though, as they're coming into the program, whether they're brought in from the outside, mm-hmm. Or they're made internally here and promoted internally, what is your promise to them? So let's say there is somebody out there, that is like, look, I've been working so hard. I am a craftsman. What you're saying is really resonating with them right now that they're listening to this. What would you promise to your current craftsman and anyone else out there that is maybe looking for the right place to hang their belt?
A few different things. Forget benefits, pay, all that stuff. That to me is the easiest thing in the world to do. If you're successful, you can figure out how to offer the best benefits to your people You can figure out how to offer the best compensation packages to your people. So you can incentivize both quality and growth. The other thing is the ability to listen to your people. If you look at any major changes that have happened around Lindus Construction over the last decade, like systems we use, tools we use, materials we use, partners that we come up with, somebody not Adam or Alex came up with that idea. Again, mom and dad, thank you for that. It's just something we learned from them. We have Leaf Guard because my dad had a weekly meeting and he wanted everyone to bring an idea to that meeting. Someone brought an advertisement to Leaf Guard to that meeting in 1995. And it's the number one profitable thing for us. It's like our Leaf Guard is why we are where we are today. Having gutter protection was like that. Having the ability to be able to listen to your people, and egos come and go. Like I don't know about you.
You have moments, right?
We do. But I've said this, and I try to communicate this with everyone. I've made bad decisions because of ego. I've made bad decisions because of fear. And when you start to recognize where your bad decisions come from, and you can be honest about that and take honest feedback from your people, then I think you have a better chance of it. I will argue my point all day long, and I will argue with everybody here. Like, we communicate loudly around here.
Yeah.
But I can change my mind faster than anyone. Give me new information, prove me wrong, I don't care. What's the best idea has to win always. If you don't allow the best idea to win, you just want my ideas to win? Fuck, we'd be screwed.
Well, it's a great place to work. I mean, people that come in here, it's a family environment with big box capability. Nobody's putting a better job out on the street as far as the finished product than y'all. And the camaraderie around here is second to none as well. Do you have expansion plans? Are there opportunities for other craftsmen out there? Are you guys hiring? What does 2025 look like?
Yes, hiring for sure, both from sales, leaf guard installers, roofing installers, window installers, siding installers, decking installers. Every department will be adding people.
What about geographically as well?
2025.
Who are you looking for anywhere particular geographically? Are you expanding?
Yes, we're going to open up our first ever brick and mortar in the Twin City metro area, and we're also looking at the Rochester market. One thing that's been clear to me is we're going to be here for a long time. And what can we do to set up the next 30 years? And having another place we can pull great people from and craftsmen from, not only from a leads and opportunity standpoint, and having a showroom a little bit closer to the area of the world that we do most of our work in, that all those are going to help. But it's a whole nother pool of people that we haven't even tapped into yet as far as craftsmen go, and finding good people that can be stationed there. Because our geographic location doesn't lend.
You don't have a ton of options within a stone's throw around here.
No.
But you do operate and serve a large area, and that's exciting for a lot of people out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That I know in the back of their mind, they're probably like, well, if they were just a little bit closer, I would be happy to go work there. So I'm excited for you. If you guys have an opportunity, or you know people that are looking for craftsman opportunities, you heard it here. Lindus Construction is going to be in the Twin Cities metro area. And then where was the other place that you're looking at potentially in
Rochester, Minnesota.
In Rochester, Minnesota as well. This has been a great part one of our 3-part exclusive with you. Thank you for the conversation. We're going to take a break here, and then we'll come back for part 2 in just a second. And as always, power up.